I think the last, or one of the, actually we still have a couple more pieces here. So a different topic is this image building, right? Image building for every format in your hybrid cloud environment. You know, you're probably in a hybrid cloud, right? You're using multiple different services. Some might be private cloud, some might be public, different types of environments. And, you know, having to create an image that maybe runs in different environments can be a challenge, right? So, and there's different things you might do. I know I'm more accustomed to using Kickstart, right? So create a machine with Kickstart, at least for me now, it's just the initial machine, and then I might have Ansible customized from there. But one of the things that we have the ability to use, right, is something called Composer. And there's a command line version of it, Composer CLI, right? You can also do it through the web console. And the idea is that you can create new blueprints. Right? And based off of a blueprint, I can start customizing it. Right? So I might say, hey, here's a blueprint, and I want to go ahead and create a new image off of that and customize it in a particular way. Some of those customizations could be things that are not provided by a package. Okay, SSH keys, users, groups, other configuration. So there might be extra customizations that you happen to go through and make. And the neat thing about this is that it allows you to save in lots of different formats. Maybe I want a QCOW2 image, or an ext4 file system, or a raw partition disk image, or a live bootable ISO. It could be a tar archive. It could be an Amazon machine image disk. It could be an Azure disk image. It could be VMware. It could be OpenStack. So I can take a blueprint, I customize it, and I can save it in different fashions. So you might find that could help, right? It just depends on what you're trying to do. But again, this is something that would be available either from the command line. There's a Composer-CLI, or it's something where if you enable through the web console, the web console can also view it. Now, I told you, I brought this up, and we're getting this error. Why am I getting that error? There happens to be an extra service that would need to be started. So I'm actually going to list userlib systemd system, anything with Lorax. So I know it's something like Lorax-composer or something like that. Oh, here it is, Lorax-composer.socket. So I might start this up, systemctl enable -- now. The Lorax composer.socket. And try to reload, and hopefully this comes back up. And all this, by the way, this is documented. Go to I like going to docs.redhat.com. It takes you over to the customer portal. But it's going to have information on, hey, if I wanted to build images, how could I do it? So I can see there's a couple of blueprints here that I can start with, or I might create an image off of that. I might make some changes, or I can start off with creating a brand new blueprint. Okay, so I call this test, and I'm not going to actually fully create this, but what I want you to see is that I've got software selections. And I can go ahead and say, oh, I want to add this particular package. Now, if you weren't sure, you could always select it, and it will tell you here's the dependencies, and if I install the automatic bug detection and reporting tool, ABRT, it's also going to install 176 dependencies. Is that one I want? Yeah, if it is, I can hit the plus, and it's going to add that piece. And I can go through and I can customize, here's the different packages. Now, there's 102 pages of this. Probably easier to search. Right? So if I knew I wanted HTTPD, I can always go ahead and search for HTTPD and grab, here's the particular one. I want just that. And again, then you can go ahead and you could create an image off of this. I'm not going to. What I want you to see, though, is I have the ability, if I'm exporting, I can choose different types of formats. But here's not showing that. Go ahead and create the new image. When I create a new image, I'm going to specify, well, what type should it be? I said there's a lot of different types. Well, here we go. So I've got a blueprint. Let's create an image of a specific type. Now, again, I'm not going to go through this process, but this is something that you get that's available as part of Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8. Okay, and again, this is using the web console. There's also the command line version of it, which is going to be Composer -CLI. So the last thing I want to go ahead and talk about here, and I'll just do it briefly. I know our time's just about up. Last thing I want to do is talk about the Wayland Windows system, right? So Wayland is available, and it's actually replacing X11. Now, even though it's replacing X11, if you want to choose X11, you can, right? You can. And one of the ways you could do this is if I were to go ahead and as I'm logging in, you guys have probably seen this, right? As you're logging into a particular environment, one of the things you can do is you can say, well, how do I want to log in? You know, in RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, you might have said, well, I'm using KDE. And or I'm using GNOME. I want to use the classic version. But as I log in as a user, I've got this little gear icon, and I can choose which one do I want. So it's defaulting to Wayland, but you can choose one of these other options. Now, you can force all users to use X11, or you can give users the choice as they go ahead and log in. Okay. The big idea, right? And again, I know we're just about out of time here. The big idea is that Wayland is going to improve performance. Why? You know, X right now has to retain a lot of legacy code so that it conforms to the X11 protocol. Code, you know, which is back from the 80s, stuff that no one's using, but it still has to be in there, okay? So it's become a bottleneck. Keep in mind with Wayland, Wayland is pushing back the rendering, and the on-screen rendering. It's pushing it back to the client. How does the client want to render it? Wayland doesn't care, right? So Wayland says you render it, but that actually is cool. You know, the client can choose how it wants to have it rendered. Anyway, the bottom line is, you guys, it's going to improve performance, but you know, not every application will use it. If you need it, if applications are still saying I have to use X11, well, there's something called X Wayland, and that allows you to be running Wayland and have the ability to have applications which use X11. So yes, that's it for this presentation. I know I went a little bit over my time. Keep in mind, you guys, there's going to be a question and answer section. Thank you, you guys. Hopefully enjoyed this a little bit of taste of training. Hopefully you've got excited, or you might actually take one of our Red Hat classes. All right, thanks again.